Here's something nobody tells you about being sensitive. The most compassionate people are often the loneliest. They understand everyone's pain except their own. If you've ever walked into a room and felt crushed by tension before anyone spoke a word, if you've ever absorbed someone's mood like a sponge absorbs water, if you've given so much of yourself that you forgot what it feels like to be full, this is for you. You're not broken, you're not too much, and you're definitely not alone. The world loves to pathologize sensitivity. Too emotional, too intense, too deep. But what if the problem isn't that you feel too much? What if the world has just learned to feel too little? There's a reason you're exhausted. A reason you lie awake replaying conversations, analyzing every micro-expression, carrying burdens that were never yours to begin with. And in the next 50 minutes, you're going to understand not just why you are this way, but how to transform this sensitivity from your greatest wound into your most profound gift. Because here's the truth, they don't teach you empathy without boundaries is self-betrayal. And most empaths have been betraying themselves for so long, they've forgotten they have a self to betray. You feel invisible while making everyone else feel seen. You give endlessly while running on empty. You understand the entire room while sitting there convinced no one understands you. And the exhaustion isn't just emotional, it's physical. Your body holds every emotion you've absorbed. The tension in your shoulders from carrying others' stress. The heaviness in your chest from unprocessed grief that isn't even yours. The constant fatigue because your nervous system never gets to rest. You've been living in a state of perpetual vigilance, and your body is keeping the score. Sound familiar? Over a century ago, a psychiatrist named Jung discovered something extraordinary. He found that we're not just separate individuals, we're all connected through what he called the collective unconscious. Think of it as an invisible ocean of shared human experience, emotions, memories, and patterns that flow beneath everything we think and feel. And empaths, you're not drowning in your own emotions, you're swimming in everyone's. Your nervous system is wired differently. While most people have thick walls between themselves and others, you have windows, sometimes doors, sometimes no barriers at all. You're touching something deeper, the shared soul of humanity itself. That's why you can walk past a stranger and feel their grief. Why you know your friend is lying before they finish their sentence. Why watching the news feels like someone is physically hurting you. You're not absorbing others' emotions. You're channeling them. There's a difference, and that difference changes everything. But here's where it gets complicated. This gift, because yes, it is a gift, was probably born from something painful. And until you understand how it began, you'll keep using it to hurt yourself. So let me ask you something. When did you first learn that your feelings didn't matter as much as everyone else's? Before we dive deeper, if this resonates with your soul's journey, please hit that like button and subscribe for more transformational content. Your support helps this message reach other souls who need to hear it. Most empaths don't remember choosing empathy. They remember the moment they realized that to survive, they had to become invisible. Think back, way back, to the house you grew up in, the people who raised you, the air you learned to breathe. Was there chaos, addiction? A parent who couldn't regulate their own emotions, maybe violence that was never physical but lived in silence, in tension, in the fear of what might happen if someone said the wrong thing. Or maybe it was more subtle. A depressed mother whose sadness hung in every room. A father whose anger was a landmine you learned to navigate. Siblings whose needs always seemed more urgent than yours. And here's what nobody tells you: sometimes the most damaging environments aren't the obviously abusive ones. Sometimes it's the quietly unstable homes, the everything's fine families, where nothing was actually fine, where emotions were never named, needs were never expressed. And you learned that your job was to sense what nobody would say and fix what nobody would acknowledge. You became the emotional detective, the family translator, the one who could feel the unspoken and metabolize it so others didn't have to. You couldn't control the environment, So you learned to control yourself. You became quiet, observant. You studied faces the way scholars study ancient texts. You learned that mom's left eyebrow twitch meant a storm was coming, that dad's third drink meant disappear, that when your sister's voice got high and tight, you needed to fix it before it exploded. This wasn't intuition. This was survival. And the cruelest part, you became so good at it that everyone started relying on you. The family peacemaker, the emotional translator, the one who could sense a shift in the room before anyone else noticed. They praised you for your sensitivity while never acknowledging what created it. You learned to read the room better than you learned to read yourself. You knew everyone's emotional weather patterns but couldn't name your own feelings. You could predict exactly what someone needed before they asked, but you had no idea what you needed because asking felt dangerous. So you just kept shrinking, kept adjusting, kept making yourself smaller so everyone else could be bigger. You developed what psychologists call hypervigilance, a nervous system stuck on high alert, constantly scanning for danger. But here's the tragic irony: the world saw your survival mechanism and called it kindness. They saw your self-erasure and called it generosity. They saw your fear and called it love. And you believed them. So you kept doing it. You became the one who makes everything okay, the one who holds space, the one who never asks for anything, because asking feels like taking and taking feels dangerous. This is what depth psychology calls the development of the persona, the mask we wear to be accepted. But your mask didn't just hide parts of you. It consumed you entirely. The sensitive child learns a devastating equation. My survival depends on other people's emotional stability. Therefore, other people's emotions are more important than mine. And here's where the connection between Carl Jung empath and personal development becomes crucial, because what started as childhood survival became adult identity. You didn't just learn to help others. You learned that helping others is who you are. The wounded healer archetype shows up in every culture's mythology. The shaman who must descend into illness to learn healing. The therapist who treats others while never addressing their own pain. The friend everyone calls at 3 a.m. who has no one to call when their own night gets dark. There's an ancient Greek myth about Chiron, a centaur, who could heal any wound except his own. He spent his immortal life curing others while living in perpetual agony. Sound familiar? Most empaths are addicted to being needed. Not because they're saviors, but because being needed feels like being valued. When someone depends on you, you exist. When you're useful, you matter. When they're okay, you're okay. Except you're not. And somewhere deep inside, you know it. You know that the moment you stop being useful, people disappear. You've tested this theory, haven't you? You've pulled back from someone just to see if they'd reach out without needing something. And often, they don't. That silence is devastating. Because it confirms your worst fear: you're not actually loved for who you are. You're appreciated for what you provide. This is what therapists call emotional justice addiction, the compulsive need to fix, to balance, to make things right. You see suffering, and you can't not respond. Even when it destroys you. Especially when it destroys you. Because here's the unconscious belief running the show. If I can heal them, maybe I'll finally heal me. But let me tell you something that might hurt to hear. You cannot heal others from the part of you that is still bleeding. And trying to do so isn't love. It's avoidance. What are you avoiding? The unbearable question underneath all the helping. If I'm not the healer, the helper, the one who fixes everything, then who am I? Strip away the savior complex. Remove the role of emotional support. Take away the identity of the person who always understands, always forgives, always gives. Who's left? That terrifying emptiness is where transformation begins. But we'll get there. First, you need to understand what you're actually feeling when you feel others' emotions. Jung discovered that beneath our individual consciousness lies something vast and shared, the collective unconscious. It's not your personal memories or experiences. It's the inherited psychological patterns of humanity itself. The archetypes, myths, symbols, and emotional imprints passed down through generations. Most people have thick boundaries to this collective layer. They feel their own feelings and occasionally touch the surface of others. But empaths, your boundaries are thin, sometimes non-existent. You're not just picking up on your friend's sadness, you're touching the universal pattern of grief itself. You're not just sensing your partner's anxiety. You're connecting to the archetypal fear that lives in every human heart. That's why crowds drain you. That's why the news devastates you. That's why you can watch a movie and feel like you've lived through the character's trauma. You're an open door through which humanity feels itself. And in our modern world, this is amplified 1,000 times. The collective unconscious used to be contained to villages, communities, tribes. Now it's spread through fiber optic cables and satellite signals. A single tragic post can make millions weep simultaneously. Not because it's their pain, but because we're all swimming in the same emotional ocean now. The digital age has made empaths into collective emotional processors. You're feeling not just your pain, not just your community's pain, but the pain of the entire connected world. No wonder you're exhausted. But here's the revelation that changes everything. Not every emotion you feel needs to be kept. Most are simply passing through, seeking to be witnessed. Think of yourself as a temple with doors and windows open. Emotions come in, swirl around, and want to leave. But you've been taught to capture them, hold them, make them yours, fix them. What if you just let them pass through? Imagine standing by a river. You can watch the water flow without jumping in and drowning. You can see leaves floating by without grabbing each one. The river doesn't need you to stop its flow, it just needs you to witness it. That's what conscious empathy looks like. You're the riverbank, not the water. You hold space for the flow without becoming the flow. This is what Jung called empathy of consciousness versus unconscious absorption. Conscious empathy means you witness suffering without becoming it. You feel with someone without losing yourself in them. You can sit beside pain without making it your home. Most empaths only know unconscious absorption, where there's no separation between your feelings and everyone else's. Where compassion means suffering together. Where love means dissolution. But there's another way. A way to feel everything and still remain whole. To be open and still be protected. To love deeply without disappearing. The path there requires something most empaths fear more than death itself. It requires meeting the parts of yourself you've spent your whole life running from. Here's a question that might make you uncomfortable. What if the thing you fear most about yourself is exactly what you need to survive? Empaths are terrified of their darkness, the anger, the selfishness, the capacity to hurt others, the word no sitting heavy on your tongue like a stone you can't swallow. You've spent your life being the light for everyone else. But what happens to all the darkness you refuse to acknowledge? Where does it go? It doesn't disappear. It grows stronger in the shadows. One of the most profound insights in all of psychology is this: everything you refuse to see in yourself will control you. The parts you deny don't go away, they possess you from the unconscious. They leak out in passive aggression, in mysterious illnesses, in sudden eruptions that shock even you. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. Think about the people who trigger you most. The manipulators, the narcissists, The ones who set boundaries effortlessly, who say no without guilt, who put themselves first without apologizing. What you despise in them is often what you buried in yourself. They have something you need, the ability to protect their energy, to guard their space, to say, "I owe you nothing," and mean it. These aren't evil traits, they're survival skills, skills you were never allowed to develop. So you became the opposite. Endlessly giving, never taking, always available, never demanding. And you called this love. But was it, or was it just fear dressed in compassion? The shadow isn't your enemy. It's the guardian you locked in the basement, and it's getting tired of being denied. Every spiritual tradition talks about the descent. The hero's journey requires going into the underworld. Shamans must face their demons. Mystics enter the dark night of the soul. Even Jung himself had what he called his confrontation with the unconscious, a period where he deliberately dove into his own psychological depths. Because here's the secret, you cannot integrate what you refuse to meet. So let's meet it. Your anger, not the polite frustration you let slip occasionally. The real anger, the rage you've swallowed for years, the fury at being used, taken for granted, walked over, dismissed. It's there. You know it is. Sitting in your chest like a caged animal. Close your eyes for a moment and feel it. That heat, that pressure, that ancient primal force that you've spent decades suppressing because good people don't get angry, empaths don't rage, spiritual people rise above it. But what if anger isn't the opposite of love? What if it's love's fierce protector? What would happen if you let it out? That's the fear, isn't it? That you'd become everything you hate, that you'd hurt people, that you'd be too much, too intense, too destructive. But here's what actually happens when you befriend your anger. You get your life back, because anger isn't destruction, it's information. It's your psyche screaming, "This is wrong, this is a violation, this needs to change." Anger is the guardian at your boundary. The force that says, "This far and no further." Without it, you're defenseless. With it, you're sovereign. And here's something profound. Your anger knows things your conscious mind doesn't. It knows when you're being manipulated. It knows when you're being taken advantage of. It knows when someone is crossing a line, even when you're still making excuses for them. Your rage is your truth teller. The part of you that hasn't been socialized into niceness. The wild thing that refuses to be tamed into compliance. When you suppress it, you're not becoming more spiritual. You're just becoming more controllable. Think of your inner landscape as a kingdom. For years, you've left the gates wide open. Anyone can walk in and take what they want. Your time, your energy, your peace. And you just smile and offer them more. But there's a creature that lives in your depths, part dragon, part wolf, part ancient warrior. It doesn't want to destroy you. It wants to protect you. This is your healthy aggression, your life force, your sacred no. Every time you people please, every time you override your discomfort, every time you say yes when everything in you screams no, you betray this guardian. And it grows weaker, more distant, until you can barely hear its voice anymore. Reclaiming your power means befriending the wolf. It means learning that no is not violence, it's honesty. That boundaries are not walls, they're the shape of sustainable love. That protecting yourself is not selfishness, it's the prerequisite for genuine connection. You cannot truly give from depletion. You can only perform giving while dying inside. Real love requires a self that is whole enough to choose. And you can't choose if you've dissolved yourself into everyone else's needs. This is what individuation means, becoming a distinct individual, separate yet connected, autonomous yet relational. It's the process of integrating all your parts, light and shadow, masculine and feminine, giving and receiving, into a coherent whole. There is no coming to consciousness without pain. Individuation hurts, because every step toward wholeness requires letting something die. You have to let die the version of you that believes your worth depends on usefulness. The version that thinks love means suffering. The version that would rather abandon yourself than risk someone being upset with you. These deaths are necessary. They're not failures, they're transformations. And here's the most liberating truth. Setting a boundary is not rejecting someone else. It's choosing yourself. And choosing yourself is how you become capable of actually loving others instead of just servicing them. Think about it. When you give from obligation, resentment grows. When you help from fear, anger builds. When you love from emptiness, you're just performing love while waiting for the other person to finally fill you. But when you give from overflow, when you help because you genuinely choose to, when you love from a place of fullness, that's when it's real. That's when it actually nourishes both of you. Boundaries create that overflow. They're not barriers to love. They're the container that makes love possible. So what does a boundary sound like for someone who's never had one? I can't take this on right now. Let me think about it and get back to you. I care about you, and I can't do that. I need to take care of myself first. These sentences might feel impossible, cruel even, but they're not. They're honest. And honesty is the foundation of real intimacy. The people who truly love you will respect your boundaries. The ones who don't, well, they were never loving you anyway. They were using you. And here's what might sting. Some of those people are in your life right now. Maybe even close to you. They've grown comfortable with your boundarylessness. They like that you never say no, never push back, never prioritize yourself. When you start setting boundaries, watch what happens. Some people will be confused, some will be supportive, and some will be angry. The angry ones will tell you you've changed, that you're not yourself anymore, that you're being selfish. And they're right, you have changed. You're no longer participating in your own erasure. And if that makes you selfish, then selfishness has been catastrophically misunderstood. And that's another shadow truth you need to face. Some people in your life are there because you're convenient, not because they value you. They stay because you never demand anything, because you're safe, because you'll never leave them, no matter how they treat you. This is where the relationship between Carl Jung empath and personal development becomes radically transformative, when you realize that growing into wholeness means some relationships will end, not because you're being cruel, but because you're no longer participating in dynamics that require your self-abandonment. Individuation is often lonely, because the more integrated you become, the less willing you are to fragment yourself to fit into others' expectations. But this loneliness is different from the loneliness you've felt your whole life. That old loneliness was the isolation of being unseen while making everyone else feel seen. This new loneliness is the sacred solitude of finally meeting yourself. And within that solitude, something beautiful happens. The scattered pieces of your soul start to come home. There's an alchemical principle that applies here. Jung was obsessed with alchemy, not the literal transformation of lead into gold, but the psychological transformation of unconscious material into consciousness. In alchemy, you can't skip stages. You have to go through the nigredo, the blackening, the dissolution, the death. You have to face the shadow material, the painful truths, the parts that disgust you. Only then can you reach the albedo, the whitening, the purification, the integration. And finally, the rubedo, the reddening where opposites unite and wholeness emerges. Every emotion you've been running from is raw material for transformation. Your anger, your grief, your loneliness, your rage, these aren't obstacles to enlightenment. They're the path. But you have to change your relationship to them. Instead of being consumed by emotion, you learn to dialogue with it. You ask, what are you protecting? What do you need me to know? What part of me is trying to come alive through you? When you can sit with pain without immediately trying to fix it, transcend it, or spiritual bypass your way around it, that's when alchemy happens. The lead of raw suffering begins its transformation into the gold of wisdom. You stop asking, how do I get rid of this feeling? And start asking, what is this feeling teaching me? That shift from enemy to teacher changes everything. Sadness becomes a doorway to depth. Anger becomes fuel for necessary change. Fear becomes information about what matters to you. Even guilt, that constant companion of the empath, becomes a compass pointing toward where you've violated your own values. Nothing is wasted. Everything is material. But here's the practice that makes this real. You have to stop running. You have to sit still with whatever arises and resist the urge to immediately do something about it. This is the hardest thing for an empath. Because doing something, helping, fixing, changing, managing is how you've stayed safe your entire life. Sitting still feels like dying. But it's actually being born. When you can be present with your own discomfort, you stop needing to control everyone else's. When you can hold space for your own pain, you stop trying to rescue everyone from theirs. When you can tolerate your own intensity, you stop dimming yourself to make others comfortable. This is the integration, the union of opposites, the place where you can be both soft and fierce, gentle and boundaried, open and protected, loving and autonomous. You're not choosing between compassion and boundaries. You're learning to hold both. You're not choosing between feeling and protecting yourself. You're discovering that true protection comes from feeling fully while remaining centered in yourself. This is what it means to be whole, not perfect, not finished, but integrated. All parts acknowledged, all aspects honored, nothing exiled to the shadow. And from this place of integration, something miraculous becomes possible. You can finally love without losing yourself. Eventually, every awakening leads to the same place: emptiness. You've stopped rescuing everyone. You've set boundaries. You've faced your shadow. And now there's just space. No one to save. No crisis to manage. No role to perform. Just you sitting in a strange stillness that feels nothing like peace and everything like loss. This is what existential therapists call the void. And most people run from it as fast as they can. They fill it with new projects, new relationships, new missions. Anything to avoid the terrifying question echoing in that emptiness. Without my role, who am I? But if you can resist the urge to fill this space, if you can just sit in it, breathe in it, be in it, something extraordinary happens. The false self dies. And in that death, the true self can finally be born. Jung understood this. He wrote that in the darkness of the unconscious dwells the seed of new life. But most people never plant that seed because they're too afraid of the darkness surrounding it. You have to let the emptiness be empty. You have to resist filling it with old patterns dressed in new clothes. You have to trust that this isn't depression, it's transformation. Think of a caterpillar dissolving in its cocoon. If you cut the cocoon open to help, because the dissolving looks like dying, you kill the butterfly. The dissolution is necessary. The emptiness is the womb of becoming. So you sit there, in the void, where nobody needs you and you're not performing any identity and there's no validation coming from external sources. And slowly, quietly, like dawn breaking after the longest night, you begin to hear your own heartbeat again. This is the holy emptiness, the sacred pause, the pregnant silence from which your authentic self emerges. But here's what nobody tells you: this new self isn't who you thought you'd become. It's not a better version of your old self. It's something you can't control or predict. It's who you actually are when you stop trying to be anything for anyone. And that person might surprise you. They might be quieter than you expected, or louder. They might want different things, need different people, have boundaries you never imagined you'd enforce. This is what the deep work of Carl Jung, empath, and personal development actually looks like, not a self-improvement project where you become more likable, but a self-discovery process where you become more real. And real is messy. Real doesn't perform. Real sometimes disappoints people. Real says no without explaining. Real takes up space. Can you let yourself be real? Most empaths can't. Because being real means risking rejection. And rejection feels like annihilation when you've built your entire identity on being accepted through usefulness. But here's the paradox that will set you free. The more authentic you become, the lonelier you might feel in the short term, and the more genuinely connected you'll be in the long term. Because performance attracts performance. Masks attract masks. But authenticity attracts truth. When you stop pretending to be fine, you meet others who are brave enough to not be fine. When you stop overgiving, you discover who stays when you're not constantly giving. When you speak your truth instead of managing everyone's comfort, you find the rare souls who can handle truth. Quality over quantity, depth over breadth, real over comfortable. This is where practical wisdom becomes essential, because integration isn't just philosophical, it's daily practice. So let's talk about actual boundaries in actual life. You're at work. Someone asks you to take on another project when you're already drowning. Everything in you wants to say yes, because saying no feels like failure. Here's what you say instead. I can't take this on right now. That's it. No elaborate explanation. No apology, no justification, just the truth. Your friend calls in crisis for the third time this week. They need you, or so they say. And you're exhausted, but you feel guilty, and here's what you say. I care about you, and I'm not available right now. Can we talk tomorrow? Notice you don't explain why you're not available. You don't apologize for having limits. You just state the boundary and trust that if they truly care about you, they'll respect it. Your family expects you at another event you don't want to attend. The guilt is crushing, but the thought of going is worse. Here's what you say. I won't be able to make it. And when they ask why, here's the revolutionary response. It doesn't work for me. That's a complete sentence. You don't owe anyone access to your inner world just because they're curious or offended. These feel impossible, don't they? Almost cruel. But they're not. They're honest. And if people respond to honesty with manipulation, guilt-tripping, or anger that tells you everything you need to know about the relationship, healthy people respect boundaries. Unhealthy people punish them. Now let's talk about energy management, because this is life or death for empaths. Before social interaction, check in with yourself. How full is your cup? What can you genuinely give today? Without depleting yourself, set an internal time limit if needed. And here's a practice most empaths never consider. Decide beforehand what you're willing to give. Not everything. Not unlimited access. Specific things. I can listen for 20 minutes. I can offer advice, but not solve this for you. I can be present, but I can't take this on. This isn't cold. This is conscious. This is loving yourself enough to show up as someone who's chosen to be there, not someone who's obligated to disappear into others' needs. During social interaction, notice when you start to fade, when the room gets too loud, when you feel yourself dissolving. Practice micro-boundaries, stepping outside for air, taking a bathroom break, creating small pockets of separation. After social interaction, have a ritual. Something that signals to your nervous system we're safe now. We're coming home to ourselves. Maybe it's silence. Maybe it's music. Maybe it's lying on the floor and just breathing. Physical boundaries matter too. Personal space is not optional. If someone stands too close, step back. If someone touches you without permission, move away. Your body is your first boundary, honor it. Digital boundaries are especially crucial in this hyper-connected age. Mute people who drain you. Unfollow accounts that trigger you. Limit news consumption. Curate your digital environment as carefully as you'd curate your physical home. And here's a rule that will save your life, the 24-hour rule. When someone asks something of you and you feel that familiar panic rising, that urge to immediately say, yes, don't respond yet. Say, let me get back to you. Then wait 24 hours. Check in with your body. Does this feel expansive or contracting? Does this fill you or drain you? Does this align with who you're becoming or who you used to be? Your body knows the truth before your mind does. Learn to listen to it. But boundaries are just the beginning. Real transformation requires integrating the opposites within you. Most empaths live in binary thinking, I'm either too much or not enough, too sensitive or too cold, all in or all out, giving everything or shutting down completely. But wholeness doesn't live in extremes. It lives in paradox. You can be gentle and have fangs. You can be soft and set firm boundaries. You can love deeply and maintain autonomy. You can be open-hearted and protect your energy. These aren't contradictions, they're completions. The mature self holds opposites without needing to choose between them. This is what Jung called the union of opposites, and it's the marker of psychological and spiritual maturity. Think of a tree. It grows both up toward light and down into darkness. Both directions are necessary. The height of the branches depends on the depth of the roots. You are that tree. Your capacity for love depends on your capacity for boundaries. Your openness depends on your groundedness. Your compassion depends on your self-care. When you can say, I am gentle and I have teeth, you've touched something true. When you can say, I love you and I need space, you found integration. When you can say, I feel everything and I'm not responsible for fixing it, you've arrived at wisdom. This is the self with a capital S, not your ego, not your persona, but the central organizing principle of your psyche. The place where all contradictions unite, where the conscious and unconscious meet, where you become finally, undividedly yourself. But integration isn't just about internal work. It's about how you engage with life itself. This is where symbolic thinking becomes transformative. Most people live in literal mode. Things happen to them randomly, unfairly, without meaning. They're victims of circumstance. Life is something to endure until it's over. But when you shift to symbolic mode, everything changes. You stop asking, why is this happening to me? And start asking, what is this showing me about myself? Every person who triggers you is a mirror reflecting your unintegrated shadow. Every pattern that keeps repeating is your unconscious trying to bring something to consciousness. Every crisis is an invitation to evolve. This doesn't mean nothing is random or unfair. Terrible things happen. But even terrible things can carry meaning if you're willing to look for it. Jung discovered that meaningful coincidences, synchronicities, happen when the inner and outer worlds align. When your psychological state matches external events in ways that can't be explained by cause and effect. You think of someone you haven't spoken to in years, and they call. You need guidance, and a stranger says exactly what you needed to hear. You're wrestling with a question, and the answer appears in a book that falls off a shelf. These aren't magic. They're the unconscious communicating with consciousness through the language of symbols and patterns. And once you start paying attention, you realize everything is speaking to you. Your dreams, your slips of tongue, the recurring themes in your relationships, the books that find you, the songs that play at exactly the right moment. Life becomes a conversation with soul. This is symbolic living, where you treat your life as a meaningful story, unfolding not a random series of events you're enduring. Try this practice tonight. Before bed, reflect on your day. Not judgmentally, just observantly. Ask yourself, what pattern showed up today? What did my triggers teach me about my edges? Where did I choose myself versus abandon myself? What was life trying to tell me? Write down 3 things, just 3. And notice what emerges over time. You'll start seeing threads, themes, your unconscious working itself out through daily life. And you'll begin to trust that there's intelligence in the chaos, meaning in the mess. This trust that life is working with you, not against you, changes your relationship to suffering. Pain stops being just pain. It becomes information, invitation, initiation. You're not asking, how do I avoid suffering? You're asking, what is this suffering initiating me into? And that question transforms you from victim to participant, from passive to active, from someone life happens to into someone co-creating with life. This is empowerment, not the shallow kind where you pretend nothing hurts, but the deep kind where you let everything hurt and discover you're strong enough to hold it all without breaking. You become the container, the witness, the conscious presence that can hold both joy and sorrow, hope and despair, love and loss, without needing any of it to be different than it is. This is what spiritual teachers call equanimity, what psychologists call distress tolerance, what Jung called standing in the tension of opposites. It's not apathy. It's not detachment. It's full presence without possession. You feel everything. You're attached to nothing. You love completely. You let go freely. This is the freedom empaths dream of, but think is impossible. The ability to keep your heart open without getting destroyed by what flows through it. And it is possible, but only after you've done the work. Only after you've met your shadow set, your boundaries sat in your emptiness, and integrated your opposites. Only after you've discovered that you're not your sensitivity. You have sensitivity, but you are the vast, unshakable awareness beneath it. That awareness can hold anything, witness everything, survive all of it. You are bigger than any emotion that moves through you, deeper than any pain that touches you, more whole than any fragmentation that threatens you. And when you know this, really know it, not just intellectually, but cellularly, everything changes. You stop trying to protect yourself from life and start trusting yourself to move through life. You stop avoiding discomfort and start using it as information. You stop seeking external validation and start generating internal confirmation. You become, in the truest sense, individuated, whole, yourself. Not who your parents needed you to be, not who your culture demands, not who wounded people projected onto you. Just you, in all your messy, complex, contradictory, beautiful humanity. And from that place, something miraculous becomes available, the capacity to truly love. So here you are, on the other side of everything you thought you knew about yourself. You're no longer the fixer, the people pleaser, the emotional dumping ground, the one who says yes when everything in them screams no. You're no longer defined by sensitivity as wound or empathy, as burden or boundaries, as betrayal. You are something new, or maybe something ancient that you had forgotten. You are the conscious witness, the one who feels without dissolving, the soul who learned to love without disappearing. And your sensitivity, it's not a flaw in your design. It's the design working perfectly. Think about it. In a world that's increasingly disconnected, increasingly numb, increasingly afraid to feel. Your capacity to feel deeply is revolutionary. It's not weakness. It's the opposite of weakness. You are the one who still remembers how to be human in a world that's forgotten. You're the reminder that feeling isn't the problem, it's the solution. That empathy isn't a burden, it's a bridge. But only when you stop using it to abandon yourself. Because the world doesn't need more people who are numb. It needs people who can feel deeply and still remain whole. Who can witness suffering without becoming it. Who can love fiercely without losing themselves. The world needs empaths who know their power, not power over others, not domination or control, but the power of presence, the power of remaining centered while everything around you spins, the power of conscious choice in a world of unconscious reaction. This is the new identity emerging from the ashes of the old. You walk into rooms differently now, grounded, centered. You feel the energy, but you're not swept away by it. You sense people's pain, but you don't make it yours. You offer compassion without offering yourself as sacrifice. You love from overflow, not depletion. You give because you choose to, not because you're compelled to. You help when it aligns with your authentic desire, not from obligation or guilt. And the most radical shift, you're okay with people being disappointed in you. Because you finally understand that you can't control how others feel. You can only be responsible for your own integrity. And integrity means honoring your truth, even when others wish you'd lie. Some relationships have ended, others have transformed. The ones who stayed are the ones who can handle your wholeness. The ones who left, they were only there for your fragments anyway. And yes, sometimes it's lonely. But this loneliness is different. It's not the desperate loneliness of being surrounded by people while feeling invisible. It's the sacred solitude of being fully present with yourself. The spaciousness of not performing. The peace of not pretending. This is what Jung meant when he said, individuation often requires solitude. Because you can't become yourself while constantly fragmenting yourself to fit into others' expectations. But here's the beautiful paradox. The more whole you become, the more capable you are of genuine connection. Because you're not looking for someone to complete you anymore. You're not seeking external validation to fill internal emptiness. You're not using relationships to avoid yourself. You're meeting others as a full person, meeting another full person. And that kind of connection, soul to soul, truth to truth, is what most people spend their whole lives seeking and never find. It's the difference between enmeshment and intimacy. Enmeshment is two incomplete people trying to form one functional person. Intimacy is two whole people choosing to walk together while remaining themselves. You can't have intimacy without individuation. You can't have real love without boundaries. You can't have genuine connection without separation. The paradox is that closeness requires distance. Union requires distinction. We must first become ourselves before we can truly meet another. This is sacred neutrality, the highest form of empathy. It's not feeling everything and getting lost in it. It's feeling everything and remaining present with it. It's the difference between drowning with someone and sitting beside them on the shore, both of you watching the waves. You came here to be a mirror, so that when the world looks into you, it recognizes its own light. Not because you're reflecting their projections back at them, but because your clarity helps them see their own clarity. This is what transformation looks like. Not becoming someone else, but becoming more fully who you already are, beneath all the conditioning and coping and people-pleasing. And the journey doesn't end here. Individuation is lifelong. There will be more shadows to meet, more boundaries to set, more opposites to integrate, more emptiness to sit in. But now you know the way. You know that growth comes through descent, not ascent. That wisdom emerges from darkness, not light. That the parts you reject hold the keys to wholeness. You know that you're not too sensitive. You're exactly sensitive enough for the life you came here to live. And that life requires your full presence, your full self, not a diminished version designed to make others comfortable. So what does freedom actually look like for an empath? It looks like feeling someone's pain and not making it your mission. It looks like loving someone and still maintaining boundaries. It looks like being kind without being convenient. It looks like saying no without guilt and yes without resentment. It looks like lying on your floor after a hard day, feeling everything and knowing you're okay. Not because the feelings are gone, but because you're bigger than any feeling that moves through you. It looks like choosing yourself not selfishly, but sacredly, because you finally understand that self-betrayal doesn't serve anyone, that you can't pour from an empty cup, that the oxygen mask goes on you first, always. This is the vision of your new life. You walk through the world with an open heart and clear boundaries. You feel deeply without drowning. You love fiercely without losing yourself. You give generously from a place of genuine overflow, not desperate depletion. You trust yourself to handle whatever arises. You trust life to guide you through its symbolic language. You trust that you don't have to carry the world, you just need to be present with it. And on the hard days, because there will still be hard days, you remember, I am not what happened to me. I am what I choose to become. You remember that sensitivity is strength, that empathy with boundaries is wisdom, that feeling everything while remaining whole is mastery. You remember that you don't need to fix yourself. You were never broken. You were just learning in the hardest way possible how to love without self-abandonment. And now you know. Now you're free. Not free from feeling, free within feeling. Not free from caring, free within caring. Not free from empathy, free within empathy. This is the liberation you've been seeking, the ability to be fully yourself in a world that will constantly try to make you smaller. And you get to choose every single day whether to shrink back into old patterns or stand in your integrated wholeness. Choose yourself. Choose your truth. Choose your boundaries. Choose your freedom. Not because you're selfish, but because you're finally awake. You finally understand that the world doesn't need you to be small. It needs you to be whole. So be whole. Be real. Be boundaried. Be soft and fierce and gentle and strong and everything in between. Be the empath who chose freedom. Be the one who feels everything and survives it all, who loves deeply and remains intact, who gives from overflow and receives with grace. You are not too much. You are not too sensitive. You are not broken. You are exactly what this world needs, an empath who knows their power, honors their boundaries, and loves from wholeness. Welcome home. To yourself, to your sovereignty, to your freedom. You don't have to carry the world anymore. You just need to be here with it. If this resonated with your soul, leave a comment sharing. What part of yourself are you ready to reclaim? Your story might be the mirror someone else needs to see their own light. Subscribe for more journeys into the depths of consciousness, because the world needs empaths who know their power. You're not too sensitive. You're exactly what this world needs. Welcome home.